everyone. Going to get going soon. It's going to be a good session today. We're going to do some character rigging, which is going to be a lot of fun. So no more balls bouncing and colliding with the ground or anything like that. We're going to, and probably no scripting, maybe a little bit of scripting towards the end. We'll see how it goes. But definitely we are going to do some character rigging. So I'm just going to give it a couple of minutes to let people join, and then I'll get going. Cool, right, I'm just going to get started. So if you remember from last time, we brought these characters in, and we had these 4 characters. In fact, let's hide the ball and the ground. You can get rid of these like so. And we have these 4 characters, but they're not rigged up in any way whatsoever. And what I mean by rigging up, I mean Unity has this very nice way of adding 2D bones to a character so that you can move the character around, add animations like walking, etc. And without that, if you can imagine, these are just really, like if I've got this arm here, you know, I can rotate it or you know, move it around, but like this, but it, you know, it doesn't really work naturally, right? So let me just Control Z all that, so you get back to scratch. So we really want a way of making these characters move in a way that feels like they've got bones, right? So, you know, you got a whole sort of skeletal system that when you move the bones, the textures move along with them. So let's not talk about it. Let's go diving straight in. So which one shall we rig up? It really doesn't matter. So I may rig up character 2 just because character 2 looks kind of cool, right? So
Are you sure?
why? Which one do you want to
How
rig up?
about the character 4?
Character 4.
Yes,
Okay.
because she's on the side, so I feel bad for her.
Okay. Right, let's hide the other characters then. And let's get character 4. And I'm just selecting her there, then I'm pressing W so that I can just move her a little bit into the middle like this. Let's move the camera in a bit. Oh, she's scaled. Is she scaled down? Yeah, she's scaled down. Let's get rid of that. So let's scale her up to 1. Like that. We really want to sort of rig these characters at a scale of 1 if we can. Let's get her in the scene view looking good like that as well. Let's move her down a bit like that. Cool. Right, we can see that character nice and clear now. And let's rig this character. So if we click on the character in our project view, and this is actually, if I right click and show an explorer, we can actually see that this is a PSB file. So this is a Photoshop format that Unity likes for rigging. So our artist Simone has created this character. Each well, let me show you. Each body part is on a different layer. So we have the front arm, the head, the body, leg, front, leg back, arm back, all on different layers. And this makes it nice and easy to rig. Okay, so if we open in our sprite editor by clicking this button here, and we don't want this view because this view, everything looks kind of higgledy-piggledy, right? But for PSB files, we have this pretty cool skinning editor. So let's click on that. And now we have...
How do you get a PSB file?
So a PSB file can be exported from Photoshop. It's essentially very similar to PSD, and actually you can export as PSD and rename the PSD as PSB, and that actually works, weirdly enough. It doesn't work backwards. I've tried it, so trying to get a PSB back to a PSD does not work, but you can just rename a PSD to a PSB and that'll work. I don't recommend it because it's a little bit of a hack, but
so that is done in Photoshop.
That's done in
and
Photoshop.
It's layered, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Are there any other files that can be updated? So like vector files. You can't use vector files in Unity, can you?
No, not natively. As far as I know, the skinning editor, which is a very specific editor just for 2D rigging, only really works with PSBs. I don't think it even works for PSD, right? So PSB is essentially a new format, I think, for, well, I don't know how new it is, but it's essentially was used to handle larger files, I think. So yeah, so that's why Unity likes this format. So, and yeah, in Photoshop it would look like this, but it would just be on multiple layers. So the head would be on a single layer, and this arm would be on a single layer, etc., etc. So if you have Photoshop, I do recommend opening these PSB files in Photoshop and taking a look at them. And if you want to do your own characters, then you can just copy that format. Cool. Right, let's rig this character. Let's dive straight in. So the first thing we need to do is create our first bone. So we click on create bone. We click on her feet here. We click up a little bit and we click again. And then we want to stop there. So we don't want this yellow bone here. So if I just right click, then that stops me attaching that bone to what I'm going to call the root bone. So let's click back on that bone, and Unity's called it bone _1, but I want to call it root. Now, as you can see, now I've clicked on it, I get this kind of shadowy yellow, which is exactly what I want, because now I want to actually create the hip down to knee down to foot bone system. So let's click about here down to where I think the knee is, which is probably about there, and then down to the bottom of the foot, which is there. Okay, and then I want to right click to stop creating bones that are attached to each other.
So is the red one, does that serve as a differentiator or what? So the actual bones are the yellow and green.
No, they're all bones. They're all bones. But this is like a root bone that everything else is connected to, and it's nice to have a root because you can just grab that and move that around, and all the bone system goes with it. So it's a little bit like having a parent game object and having all the children inside that game object. It's handy to have, and you would kind of sorely miss it if you didn't have a root bone. So. Right, so we're now doing the other leg. So I am. Oh, and if if you right click too many times, like if I right click again, and now I've detached myself completely from the root, which is not what I want. So just click on the root bone again, and then you've got this shadowy connection here, which tells you that these bones are essentially children of the root bone. So let's click on here. Let's click on our knee, which is about here. Let's click on the bottom of the foot, about there. And then let's right click. And now what do we want? Ah, yes, we want the chest bone. So let's click on the bottom of our chest up to our neck. And then we can carry on actually, and we can, if say you had a long neck and you just, you can actually sort of right click here and start with a little bit of a gap, but that's not the case here, so I'm quite happy to carry on and click here to the top of the head, and then I've finished with that. So I just want to right click once because I still want my arms attached to my root bone, and this is what I'm doing next. So we've done the head, we're on to our shoulders. So let's click on our shoulder here, on our elbow here, and then on our hand here. Let's right click and let's do the other side. Let me just zoom in a little bit. So we want our shoulder, which is about there, our elbow, which is about there, and our hand, which is about there. And then we will right click, and I think that's it. Gosh, we rigged that up quickly. But we do want to name these bones because it is kind of handy to have them not named bone 1, bone 2, etc. We kind of want to name stuff as we go along. So I am going to call this leg underscore F for front underscore U for upper. So that's our leg front upper bone. This is our leg front lower bone. This is our leg back upper bone. This is our leg back. No, I'm just using B on I. Bit back lower bone. In fact, we can click on visibility here and see how we're doing, which is kind of a good way of keeping track of where we are. So we've done our legs, we've done our root, we've done our legs attached to our root. Let's do our arms next. So this is our arm underscore front underscore upper, arm underscore front underscore lower, arm underscore front, back underscore upper, arm underscore back underscore lower. So we've done our arms, but what are we missing? We're missing a couple of bones here. One of them is our chest, and one of them is our head. So that's pretty cool. We've actually labeled all the bones in our body. You can imagine that if you wanted to maybe have the hair, let me just right click to detach that. If you wanted to do like our ear moving or some hair moving, you can actually, there's rigs that I've seen that, you know, have bones for hair and stuff like that. But we'll keep ours relatively simple. So let's move on to attaching these bones to our textures, because if I preview our pose now and I move these bones around, they don't actually move our head or anything, and we don't we obviously want the main reason why we're doing this whole bone system is so that we can move our textures around. So what we can do now is we can click on weight slider. We can click on, let's say, the head, or double click, and we can actually, our head bone is already highlighted, so that's all we need to do, and we just need to move this amount all the way to 1, and now we can move our head. Pretty cool, huh? Let me Control Z to undo that movement, but don't do it twice, because we do want that that texture attached to that bone. That's cool. Let's do an arm now, right? So let's zoom in a little bit, and let's it does seem to need a double click to highlight these textures, and we've got our arm front upper bone already selected, so let's just whack our weight to 1, release, and now we have our arm. Say hello. Hello. Cool. Now we want to attach our lower bit of our arm, so let's whack this up. Let's check that. Ooh, okay, that is probably not what we want. It looks a little bit macabre, so let's just one Control Z, because we're actually kind of fine with that, but we just need to hit another button or two. So we want to, with this bone highlighted, we can actually click on auto weights and generate, and you can see there, this color changed here. And what this kind of cleverly did was it assigned this bone to the vertices around here, but it won't move these anymore, right? Which is pretty clever of it. And we can just, look at that, pretty cool. Maybe not perfect, but I think it'll do.
Oh, wow.
For our purposes.
How did it, why did it do that? So what was the command again?
It was auto weights and then generate, and then it does some fancy algorithm that kind of figures out, okay, the vertices near this bone want to be moved with the bone, but the vertices away from the bone probably don't want to be. So it kind of figures that out automatically, and it does a pretty good job, to be fair. And there's all these weight brushes and things that you can play around with. I'm not going to go too deep into that. I mean, there's plenty of videos on YouTube that go in depth into these, but you know, we're just trying to get something, you know, up and running, and you can play around with this for hours, but these results are pretty well good enough to for most cases. Right, let's do the other arm. So if we double click on that arm, we actually want to go back to weight slider. So remember to do that. Click back on weight slider, and we do have this. Then we do need to click on this upper bone here. Whack this all the way up to 1. Yeah, hello. Undo. Control Z to undo, and then do the same with this one. Whack this all the way up. But again, we've got this macabre thing going on here, so Control Z that. Auto weights, generate. There you go, and you saw the color changed here because these vertices, you know, kind of detach themselves from this bone now. And now, hey, how's it going? So that works nicely as well. Let's carry on.
Nice.
It's pretty cool, huh? Did we do the head? Oh yeah, we did the head, didn't we? So did we do the chest? I don't think we did the chest, did we? No, we didn't. Okay, so let's double click the chest. Click on weight slider, make sure this bone here is selected. So you want to make sure that your chest texture's selected and the bone that you want to associate with that chest piece is selected. And then this is when you can just whack up this weight slider all the way to 1, release, and now there you go. Cool.
Wow, this is just strange.
Yeah. Right. What are we doing next? So, in fact, let me just have a look. I've made a mistake on the skeleton because we actually want our arms to be attached to our chest, and actually you can see that that is a mistake. So let's see if we can fix that. It's the easiest way to fix that. I'm not too sure if we can. Oh, we might be able to just drag and drop this. I've not actually done this before, so this is interesting. Let's try it. So let's do that, and let's do that. And does that work? Wow, look at that. Now that is kind of magic. So yeah, even if you make a mistake with your rigging, you can actually fix it at this late stage, which is pretty amazing. I've never actually done that before, so that's pretty nice to know. Right, let's do our legs now. So if we double click our leg, click on our bone, we can see, because there's no color on here, we can see that we haven't done this, right? So yeah, that is leg, front, upper, that's selected. There you go, it changes color, release. And now we can do the can, which is cool. Let's click on this one, let's whack our weight up. But of course we have exactly the same problem, right? We have this kind of macabre legless thing going on. So again, auto weights, generate. Now we can bend at the knee nice and sensibly. Let's do the same here. So
Ready for a football match.
exactly, yeah. Go back to weight slider. Remember, we have to switch back, and then we make sure that you've got this bone selected and this texture. Whack this up to 1. And then let's click on this one and whack this one up to 1. And we won't bother testing it. We know that we've got this macabre thing going on, so let's just do auto weight and generate. And now we can do a little bit of kicking with our foot.
I think that's the fun bit for me, like, is that rigging. But that's because I'm a visual person, so.
Yeah, definitely. It's a nice break from the from doing all the scripting and stuff. And it's quite funny that as a developer, you know, I do appreciate these lulls in coding where you can actually rig something up and do something visually for a change. It's quite nice. So let's apply all that so we don't lose that. And I think we're pretty good. Let's close that. Let's open up our character 4 and let's click on it, and there you go. You see we have our bones here, and let's check it out. So hey, how's it going, Anna? What's going on? I'm gonna do a bit of headbanging here. Dum, dum, dum.
You're the ultimate puppeteer, Morgan.
Exactly, yeah. And we can select the bones in here as well. So I can click on them here, But as you can see, these two, this hierarchy in the scene kind of keeps in sync, which is nice. And so I can click on the arm and you can see that this arm front here is highlighted, and I can say hello like this, which is kind of cool. And if I click on this one, cool, like strumming a guitar or something. I don't know what I'm doing there, but yeah, cool. Right. But what about our other characters, and do we have to do all those as well? Well, let's have a look. So if I...
Oh, hey, Kit. Yeah, you missed quite a lot. The boning of everything.
I
But
don't...
maybe, Morgan, you can do a quick recap.
I don't think you can say boning, Anna. It's it's
You've got to
rigging.
cut this one.
It's rigging.
Yeah, well, putting the bones in. Yes, yes, rigging.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. If you want to see what we've been doing, Kit, we've been basically enabling our character to headbang, like that, or to let's do that one, or to kind of say hi, hey, how's it going? So that's what we've been doing. But now we're looking at our other characters, right? Because we've got 3 more characters, and it might be in your game that eventually you've got lots of characters, right? So what's the process of, I mean, do we have to do that all again from scratch? Well, the good news is no. And let me show you, but you do have to do something, and let me just go through that with you.
What do you mean that for 10,000 collection we wouldn't have to do this 10,000 times?
Exactly. All right. Okay, right. So the easiest way to get our rig from this character to this character is to do the following. We open up, no, not that. We click on Sprite Editor. We go to Skinning Editor. We have our rig here, and we simply click Copy Rig. And then, let's see if I can get, yeah, so we click on character 3, and we do Paste Rig, which did not work totally because we have to click, yes, because we have to click on this. This is actually, this gets me every time, right, is that I click Paste Rig and I expect it to happen immediately. And then, Anna, what do you think? This UI is not that great, is it? That this just appeared down the bottom right here. So yeah.
I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, this is not the first thing UI-wise that is not great in Unity. So
Yeah, it's not great. So yeah, you got some gotchas there. So I did paste rig, and then didn't know. It's hard to spot this thing. It's not even a pop-up really. Come up, and then you have to hit paste. Now this looks horrendous, right? So at this point you might think to yourself, Christ, throw all the toys out the pram, because this looks as if it hasn't worked, right? But luckily this is, I think, a 1 or 2 button press fix. So you click on Auto Geometry and Generate for All Visible. There you go, and that is fixed. So and now we've got our, so we didn't have to recreate that whole bone system for that character. So that's kind of nice, right? Let's apply that. And if we come back to here now, and we, I don't know, click on the chest, we can take a bow. Yes. Didn't have to do all that rigging over again, just had to paste. Let's do that for our other characters while we're thinking about it. So come back to our skinning editor, click on character 3. Well, let's copy this one. So copy rig. We've done character 3. Let's go to character 2. That has no rig at all. We can paste our rig in here. Again, I immediately think that's all I need to do, but I actually need to paste this here, like so. We have this horrendous mess happen. We can click auto geometry, and again, there's another subtle one down the bottom here, generate for all visible, and that'll do the trick for that one as well. Apply, click on character 1. And last one we have to do, paste rig, paste, auto geometry, generate for all visible, apply. And now we're in the sort of happy state of affairs that all our characters are all rigged. Some are smaller than others, and actually this is good, isn't it? Because you know you can have kids, yeah, and this would. It all works. It's scaling down and everything, so you know, no surprises there. Let's make them all the same size though, like so.
What if you do want to change them a little bit, so it's a bit different for each?
How do you mean the actual skeletons, the actual skeletal rig?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean you can do, yeah. So we could literally, I mean, let's do it for one of them. I mean, she's got a big ear, right? So let's do a bone for her waggling her ear, right? So let's do that. If we go back to character 3. And we open up our sprite editor, and we go to our skinning editor, like so. Now we do want our ear probably, well, definitely associated with our head, right? Or maybe just, no, I think head, yeah. And so we want to click on create bone, and then make sure that our head bone is selected, and then let's click on here and here. Now I actually know that this is not going to work, and the reason why is that the ear is not on a separate layer, but I think we might be able to fake it a little bit. Let's see. So let's click on this. Let's click and call this ear. This is, you know, winging it a bit here. And let's click on weight slider. And of course we know that our head moves like this. But what if we click on that, click on auto weights, and see if this works? I got a feeling it might not. Wait a minute, we need to click that and that. There you go. Let's try that. No, I don't think it's going to work. And this is because this ear is not on a separate layer. But if we had that ear on a separate layer, I mean, that bone could control it, and that would work fine. I mean, we can try with the weight brush and see if that works. Let's do the weights.
I think the next update of Unity should include an AI that can really see what is here, what is not, and just you don't have to do different layers. It just kind of knows.
Yeah, you see, because it's trying to there, right? But it's not quite clever enough to figure out, you know, because it would have to draw some more vertices around this ear, and yeah, it's not really going to work. But yeah, I mean, this is a pretty impressive tool as it is, and yeah, maybe in the future with some AI and everything, it could do a lot of this stuff more automatically. It's not quite there. Yeah, I mean, you can go in and try and edit the geometry and try and get it to work, but it would actually just be easier to go back to into Photoshop with a PSB, put the ear on a separate layer, and then obviously it would work, because you know, you've seen it work for all the other layers, right? Cool. So let's discard that, and let's make sure that we have not got a weird ear on our character there. Okay, so this is definitely one way that, you know, we've got these 4 different characters now, and we could just have these 4 characters in our game, and that's kind of no problem at all, really. But what if you kind of want to transition between the characters really nicely, right? So maybe you've got a character chooser, and you're choosing between the 4 characters, and the character chooser is animating, right? Well, to keep all the animations in sync, I mean, it is possible, but it may not be ideal, right?
I think I've seen this somewhere. Was it I think, what was it called? Rogue Fox Guild? Like, I think they have like an avatar viewer or something. Like, you know, you can see all your NFTs and they're all like moving similarly to one another.
Exactly, yes. I may have solved this problem before, perhaps in a slightly more complicated way. So, but I will show you the basics of being able to swap your sprites out. And there's quite a few different ways you could approach this, but let's just have a stab at it, right? So what we want is, we actually want what we call a Sprite Library. So I'm actually going to create another folder here, and what happened there? Create folder, and let's call this Sprite Libraries, like so. And we will right click on here, and we'll create, and you need to go under 2D and Sprite Library Asset, this one here. Let's click on that. And which one are we doing first? We're doing character 3, aren't we, for some reason? So let's just call this char underscore 3. Now then, if I click plus here, and I will, now like I say, there's different ways of doing this, but let's do the most simple way of doing this, which is just having one category, which we can arbitrarily call all, and we take our textures for character 3, and we drag and drop them in here. And let's start on the head. So we've got head, body, let's do, doesn't really matter, let's do arm, or let's do arm front, arm back, leg front, leg back, like so. Let's just extend that a little bit so we can see that what's going on here, and let's apply that. So we now have this Sprite library for character 3 that has all our images in for each body part. Now what we want to do is we want to add a Sprite Library component here. So I've started to type Sprite, and let's choose Sprite Library. And what we can do is we can just drag and drop our character 3 Sprite Library asset into here. And so now this is available to this whole character now, these assets. And we want to do one more thing now, which is if you click on arm front and then shift click on arm back, so we've selected every single sprite in this character, and we want to add component, and then it is Sprite Resolver. There you go. Now we've added a Sprite Resolver to every single one of those sprites, and handily, and this is a little bit of magic really, is that it's actually gone and selected the right part here, and you'll see what I mean in a second. So if I take our character 3 and I duplicate it, so I can do a Control D, that should have duplicated it, or let's just do Control C and Control V. Okay, that worked. And let's do character 2 next, and let's get our textures for character 2, which is here, and you know, make sure it's not these ones you want. These are the textures down the bottom here, which is perhaps not immediately obvious, but let's drag and drop these into the right ones. So we've got body, arm front, arm back, leg front, leg back, apply. Okay, so it doesn't look like much has happened here, but let's just show you the magic now. So if I go to Sprite Library, fingers crossed, whoa, fingers crossed, whoa, pretty cool, huh? So we're using one character now instead of 4.
What happened there?
So what it does cleverly is that you can change the library in the roots of this character, the library that it's using, the asset library, and it will just automatically map the sprites across. Well, kind of automatically. I mean, we've done a little bit of work to get it to work, but the beauty is we can do that for our other characters now. So let me do it again. So Control C, Control V, seeing as my duplicate doesn't seem to be working. And let's do character 1 now. So now with character 1 highlighted, we go back to our textures. Let's close these so I'm not confused. Open up character 1. And let's just drag our character 1 assets over. So head, body, arm front, arm back, leg front, leg back, apply. And let's have a look again. So character 3, go back to our library. Whoa, we can now morph seamlessly between all our characters. And the beauty here is, of course, you can do this in code, no problem at all, right? And no need to keep things in sync or disable game objects or anything like that. It's using this skeleton. And so if you've moved the leg, let's just do it. So if we move the leg like this, and then we whack on character 1. There you go, in exactly the same pose, which is pretty awesome, huh?
Yeah.
You don't sound that impressed, Anna.
No, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So that person is running now. There you go. A little bit of a. There you go. It's on the march. And
Whoa!
exactly, that's what I was looking for. Look at this.
Oh my god!
This is amazing, huh?
Wow.
Well, let's just finish.
It's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah.
And the illustrations are fantastic. So yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I was doing this course like fully.
That's what I want to hear. Character 4. Go back to our textures. Let's open up character 4. Again, make sure it's these bottom ones you're dragging and dropping, and let's just drag and drop. Character 4, like so. Body, arm front, arm back, leg front, leg back, apply. And there you go. Well, that was the one we've already got. This is character 2, this is character 3, this is character 4. And so, as you can imagine, that's extremely powerful, right? That's using some pretty impressive tech on the Unity side. Definitely in the past, you would have had to have gone to an external program like Spline. I think there was one called Puppeteer. There was a few different external tools that are still around, you know, that are still very good. And the advantage of external tools is, of course, you can use them in different game engines and things. So if that's something that you need to do, then an external tool would make more sense. But this is very nice if you're working completely inside Unity. Then there's really no reason not to use a powerful tool like this. Right, now I'm going to leave what's called IK for Monday, I think, because that's, yeah, a little bit involved. It's not too bad, but as you can probably imagine, it's not. I mean, it's not too bad, but you know, if you're animating and you have to drag each one of these, and like you can do this, which is not ideal. Yeah, so there's still a little bit of care needed to keep everything looking natural. And by adding IK or inverse kinematics to this rig, you can actually make adding animations that little bit easier. And so we'll go through that on Monday. What I would like to just quickly go through is probably just do a little bit of looking at the new input system. So we've had our fun now with the visual aspect, but let me just go through the new input system pretty quickly, and then we're in a good place for finishing off our character, and we'll be doing basically moving the character around and having a running animation by the end of the session on Monday, if we get this input system done now. So let's do that. So the new input system which we're going to use, we could use the old input system which I briefly went through in a previous session, but let's have a look at the new input system. Now we do need to get this from a Unity package, so we need to open the Windows Package Manager. So click on Window, click on Package Manager, and let me just bring this into view like so. And if we click on this little drop down here, we want to go to Unity Registry, and the input system, the new one, is just called input system, and it's here. And if we click on it, we can just click on install. But yeah, if you just want to read this, a new input system which can be used as a more extensible and customizable alternative to Unity's classic input system in Unity Engine Input, right? Which is pretty well what I've said earlier. So let's click on it, click on install, should I say. And that is installing rather slowly. And this says, do you want to enable backends? So we'll start the editor and disable the old engine input system. Yeah, this is, we want to say yes to this. We can save our main scene. Yeah, that's fine. Cool, so that has brought in our new input system. We can actually now close our package manager, and what we now want to do is, let's choose one of our characters to move. This one will do. And we actually now want to add a component, and let me think, what's this called? This is called player input, I think. Yeah, player input. Yeah, so this is a kind of helper component for the new input system, and it actually gets things up and running reasonably quickly. So the next thing we want to do is click on create actions, and we want to save. It's asking us, let's just put that in the center of the screen so you can see that more clearly. It's sort of saying create input actions asset, and let's put that inside game, and let's call this we'll just call this input like so, and stick it in there. Save. And we'll keep with this. So this is the control scheme that it kind of defaults to, and it'll do for our purposes. We won't mess around with this too much. But the key thing here is that we have our movement set up, and it looks like it will handle WASD, it will handle a gamepad. So that's probably enough for us, because the WASD actually looks like it will handle arrows as well. So that's pretty good out of the box. And it will give us back a vector 2, which is pretty cool as well. So I think we're good there. So let's close that. And the main thing that we want to change on here is this behavior, because the one that everyone seems to use, and I think is the nice one to use, is invoke Unity events. And you'll see how this works in a second. So we now get this option here, which we can expand out, and then we can expand out player, and we've got, as if you know, in here you saw that we had this move one, and which was handling all the WASD keys and everything, and we can just link this up with our script, and we've got a nice little function that will automatically get called when we hitting the right keys on our keyboard. So we need to set up that method now. So let's do that. We do have a move script on here. We're calling it move ball. I think we'll create another script that will call move character, or move 2D. Let's call it move 2D. Move 2D. There you go. 2D. Get there eventually. Let's open up that move 2D script. We want up here a let's see, let's have a private vector 2, and we'll call this move. You can call it move direction or move vector 2D, just to remind us that it's a two-dimensional vector. And then we don't need start, so let's rename this to move. And this is actually what we're going to call from that component that we added. So we do actually need, and you'll find this with packages that you bring in, extra packages that you bring in, that they will usually be in what they call their own namespace. And so the new Unity input system is under the namespace Unity engine.input system. And so now we have let's see, so it's input action, and yeah, Visual Studio has got pretty well exactly what I need to type in there, which is pretty clever of it. So let's just do that, And that is exactly what we want to do, right? So this move will get called every time we press the arrows or WASD keys. Once we've hooked it up, which we'll do so in a second, and it will set our move vector 2D to be the right directional vector. And as we saw in a previous session, we need to use this inside a fixed update because we are going to use a bit of physics. So we want to get component our rigid body 2D. So rigid body 2D, and we're not going to set the velocity directly. We are going to use move position, and we are going to use, let's see, transform dot position that looks kind of exactly right, except we need some speed in here as well, don't we? Because we might want to change the speed of our character. So let's do public float speed, and let's multiply this by speed, and let's change this delta time to fixed delta time, just to be on the safe side. Because we are in the fixed update. Now that looks pretty good to me. There are things that we can improve here, like we may want to not get the component like this on every fixed update call. We might want to cache this out on a wake. But we can do that later. Let's not worry too much about that. It's just an optimization. Let's now hook this up. So we should be able to hook this up now. If we go to character 3, and we need to go open up our events again, player, and we want to actually hook up our move ball script here. Not move ball, gosh. Where's our... yes, we haven't added this right script, have we? Let's remove this, and we want to add our move 2D, and that's what we want to add here. So let's drag and drop that in there. Let's choose move 2D, and I would be expecting to see let's see, did we save this correctly? I didn't make it public. There you go. So rookie mistake. Make your method public, otherwise you can't get at it. Let's try that again. Move 2D, and there you go. We actually want this top one here because it will then pass through the vector 2 that we need to it, and I think that should do the trick. We've got a speed of 5. Have we got a rigid body on here? That's probably maybe something we're missing. Yes, we are missing it. So yeah, if I hit play now, let's just do it so that you see the error, but that's the reason that we haven't got a rigid body on here. So it should complain. Yeah, you can see. Trying to and it's also complaining that we're using the old Unity system here. So we've obviously got our move ball script on all these, which we need to remove because it was using the old input system and it's not going to be happy with that. So let's just go along and do that. Remove those. If we've got anything else, let's remove it from the board as well, and save that. And it should complain now about the rigid body, hopefully. Let's see what it does. Yeah, there you go. Missing component exception. There's no rigid body 2 attached. Let's fix that. Add component. Rigid body 2D. And we don't want gravity. So kind of remember that you need to turn gravity off. Just put 0 in there. Everything else should be happy. Let's save, let's hit play and keep our fingers crossed. Yay, there you go. So we have our girl moving and she's kind of moving left and right.
Oh, there are 2 of her right now.
There is 2 of her, yeah. One that's actually the others are zombies. Yeah, they can actually be shot. So we can actually take those and just.
I thought this her twin sister.
Yeah, no, we can kill those. We don't need them. We have all we need in our one little character here, so we can actually rename this. You can just rename this character, to be honest, and. Yeah, we've got everything we need here, which is cool. And yeah, if you want to kind of see where we're going with this, we'll want it her to be, you know, smaller like this, and moving around like that, and being able to swap out the character like that, which is cool, huh?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But I do like also a bit larger, so you can see the detail.
Yeah, yeah. But, you know, as you can imagine, for the PvP game, it's going to be a little bit more zoomed out. We need to see multiple characters on the screen.
True.
Yeah. So we're definitely in a good position for Monday now, where... Of course we're missing the running animation. This is looking a little bit sad that they're kind of skating along here. But the good news is that we have a character rig that, you know, we can animate and definitely that will help us a lot if we don't do that. Oh, look at this. Interesting. So if you wanted to do some
Morgan,
what?
I think you're supposed to show what to do, what not to do.
Yeah. Cool. Yay. So hopefully you're starting to see something come together a little bit here, and on Monday, yeah, we'll add the animation, so we'll have a walking around character with inverse kinematics, which will definitely help in adding more complex animations. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks Anna for asking lots of awkward questions. Very cool, and that was a good session. So yeah, look forward to Monday.
Nice. And if you guys want to stay for some gaming, we can do that if you want in Hangouts. Thank you, Morgan, for the session. I think that was very entertaining for me. So yeah, I think definitely looking forward to next week as well.
Yeah, definitely. Same here. Cool. Ending the stream now.